This is TWiT.
Lori Gill. Now nobody was in Barcelona this weekend, right?
Not me.
We sent people.
We wish we were in Barcelona.
I've decided that I'm allergic to jet lag, so I can't fly into a different time zone.
Mobile World Congress, of course, going on. I think it's still going on in Barcelona. Maybe it's wrapped up. And it was an occasion for Samsung a week ago to kind of ahead of time in San Francisco announce the new Galaxy S10 phones. But also to reveal the Galaxy Fold, which won't be available till, I think, next month. You can pre-order it.
April 26th?
Oh, April. Okay, April 26th. That's the phone that folds out like a book. So it has
an Audi.
It's an Audi. There's also innies. That's the Huawei Mate X, which is a trifold. The screens are on the outs. It's very complicated. Now, we are starting to get some reports back from people like Vlad Zvov, and Dieter Bohn at The Verge, Anand's Text folks who have tried these, and generally the reaction is surprisingly positive.
It's a really great idea. It's a great form factor. It's exciting to have that extra. I'm not making a joke here. The extra flexibility of having a pocketable phone that could also expand out into a more of a productivity device. And not only that, but just from a design point of view, the idea of all these people who have all these really weird designs on their computers at Apple and HTC and inside Google and everywhere say, well, what if we did have the ability to bend the display 180 degrees? What problems could we solve? I mean, a lot of people are making fun out of it. It's certainly going to be a weird. I don't want to become anywhere near the first generation of these devices. Also, Samsung is not really great at building the first generation of anything, and of course $2,000 for this thing, holy mother of God. But it's a truly exciting idea that I hope that there's a lot of follow through on, because this could be an explosive way of getting us off the seafloor of stagnation in phone space.
I couldn't read your eyes, Lori. Did you want one or not? It was very exciting to see this new technology come out. So, all of the tech world is sort of stagnating right now. There's not been really the next new completely different thing. And here's this new completely different thing. But I don't know. There's a couple of things. One, it's huge. And I don't mean like the screen folds out to big. I mean, it's thick. They're both very thick. Even the Huawei one, which is significantly thinner, it has this sort of grip on the side that's larger. So they're kind of like making their version smaller by cramming everything into this little grip on the side, which still makes it kind of thick. And I just keep thinking about how the mobile phone, like cellular phones, they used to be really big. I mean, think about the car phone and how big the car phone was. And then we went super extra small and we started carrying around phones that were 3.5 inches. They were tiny little phones. And now we're moving back to larger and larger and larger. And it's getting to the point where mobile devices are not mobile anymore. You can't comfortably fit either of these folds in your back pocket. They're way too thick. They're way too long. But it was really cool to see these things in action, to see foldable screens in action. So, I don't know.
I just think that I just watch it getting bent and thinking, this is I just don't know how it's going to last. I just have this thing like the first people who get this is going to be great for the first 3 or 4 months or 5 months, and then after that.
Well, also those screens are plastic because you can't bend Gorilla Glass yet, so they have very like pre iPhone era, pre Corning era plastic screens. In the Huawei case, it's going to be like, I'm super excited too. That crease, I'm never going to not see it until they figure out proper crease management. But these are real. But I love these early experimental stages. I don't like it when we've got an establishment that says this is the way a phone looks. I love it when crazy drunken Uncle Samsung is throwing something at the wall, and Huawei's billions of dollars are just like party time. Let's see what we can make it a triangle. Who cares? It's 2 triangles. It unfolds into a trapezoid. I love this. It is so fresh and vibrant, and a lot of it is going to be so terrible. But I love going through that to see what comes out on the other side.
I want to work in the crease management
management division. I think we.
Yes. No, but Renee's absolutely right. That's what Samsung gets a lot. I make fun of Samsung for, hey, look, we've got the first 3D face scanner that somebody at the demo event was able to trick just by taking a selfie on his iPhone and holding up. But hey, it's still the first 3D face scanner. But they're the other company that said, wow, creating a huge 5-inch phone, that's the stupidest idea ever. But hey, we're in the manufacturing business. We've got like a dozen different models. Let's just do it. And then suddenly they've revitalized an entire industry. So right. I'm keen. I'm keen to see how it turns out. Everything that's being said here is absolutely true. I'm mostly about the plastic screen, about the little divot that they're trying to make sure you don't really see. And I'll be shocked if after a year of actual use, assuming that people are using it like a phone as opposed to using it as a party trick and otherwise keeping it in a drawer. I'm also really keen to see if there doesn't become a little or even a marked sort of like line of reduced contrast in the middle of that fold out screen. But
after
the idea of
so many times.
Yeah, absolutely. I also thought it was kind of weird that they it says, I can't wait for the first teardown of this, because if I were designing this device and I were Samsung, one of my priorities, as soon as they showed me the first the working prototype, I would say, oh, okay, but of course, when we build the real thing, the closed screen is going to be from the top. It's not going to be this sort of 2-inch chin and 2-inch forehead. Oh, no, sir. That's exactly what we're going to do.
Right? Okay. It has no headphone jack and it has a giant notch. Two things you never thought you would see in any Samsung phone. But 5G is so onerous that there's nobody on earth who can fit those modems in nicely yet.
But Apple's influence is so broad that not only did have people seeing their hardware designs, but they also said, hey, you know that trick where Apple decided to make the default wallpaper for the phone a planet on a black background so no one could see the size of our notch? Let's do that so no one can see the big the big keyhole in our screen or the big notch on the corner of our folding screen.
The Galaxy Fold is like a pirate patch. It's like the entire right-hand side of the open display.
Yeah.
The pirate patch. That's the new.
Well, and then there's the price, and on Friday,
starting at $1980.
$1980, and the Huawei Mate X is almost $3,000. To the US,
but the equivalent if you can smuggle one in.
Jeff Williams, COO of Apple, was speaking at Elon University on Friday, and one of the students asked him if Apple had any plans to reduce prices. He said, the stories that come out about the cost of our products have been the bane of my existence from the beginning of time, including our early days, Williams said. Analysts don't really understand the cost of what we do and how much care we put into making our products.
Oh, boo-hoo.
He talked about how to make the Apple Watch's activity tracker, they built a lab with 40 nurses and 10,000 participants. But he did say it's something, the cost is something we're very aware of. We do not want to be an elitist company. We want to be an egalitarian company, and we've got a lot of work going on in developing markets. He must have breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the price for the Huawei Mate X.
Right? Is that it wasn't them was probably the big part.
Oh, I guess a $1,100 phone doesn't sound as expensive as it used to.
Looking pretty good to you now. Hey, folks, you can get 2 of those in Andy's new case.
And I'm not sure if Apple or if Samsung or Huawei are thinking, oh, this is too expensive, but we're going to do a prototype, or if it actually costs that much to make. I mean,
it's super expensive to make small yield. And so this is the thing. It's like that West Wing episode where Donna says, come on, these pills cost 25 cents. And Josh says, no, the second one cost 25 cents. The first one cost $2 billion.
Right.
And they have to amortize that cost over how many they think they're going to sell. And they're not going to sell 100 million of these like they would the Galaxy S10. So they have to figure out we're manufacturing costs this much. We're going to make this many. And that's, these are for the early adopter nerd, super rich people who they want to be part of the process, and they're willing to pay a surcharge to be part of the process of discovering what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about it not because I think that's a rational amount of money to spend on a phone, but because it's not as though, congratulations, we are the only manufacturer of phones, and we've suddenly decided that the minimum buy-in is going to be $1,980. It is a super high-end phone that does things that for a good whole 6 days, you could say no other phone in the world could do, but still, and if you've and at least in that side of the marketplace, if you want to buy an $80 phone, you can still buy an $80 brand new, quite capable phone. So it's one of those cases where you can say, you're right, that is way too much money. That's why you definitely shouldn't buy one of these if that's way too much money for you.
And in a lot of countries, people are paying 2x, for an iPhone. It's one of those things that as a status symbol, it's not that there's 10 people out there looking for a status signal. There's millions of people out there looking for a status
the nice thing
signal.
about a folding phone, there's no question you have the latest, greatest phone, right? I mean, it's so different.
You gotta flex with it, though, right? You gotta go, open my phone and tell you, here are the directions you wanted.
Let me show you.
Did you see my new video?
But then people do know, I mean, immediately they made such a big deal over the price that, oh, wow, this guy has $2,000 to spend on a phone.
Like Lori said, though, it's so thick. It's like THII.
That's not thick.
Yeah.
That's not THICCCCC. This is thick. This is the Energizer 18,000 milliamp hour phone. Dave Gershgorn of Quartz says it's not just thick, it's unusably thick. He said you can barely hold it in your hand.
It's unstealable.
I disagree with it. If you put that in a sock, that is incredibly useful as a bludgeon self-defense device.
Well, an Energizer, which is a battery company, let's face it, also says you can use it as a battery charger to charge your other devices.
If you look at
but you can do that with the new Samsung Galaxy.
It's probably not that much thinner than that thing. It's probably a little bit thicker.
But you have other stuff in there, Alex.
I have a lot of stuff.
I'm pretty sure it's a lot thicker than that, actually. Like, you look at that picture. That thing is really thick.
Yeah. Remember that old cell phone ad where the guy told his friend it had theft protection and he threw it at his head? It's just like a perfect commercial.
I think there's definitely.
I don't think that thinness is everything. I think that if most phones were 1/3 thicker, they could be so much more useful, and not just because of battery life, but nonetheless, like as Lori said about the folding phone, like if it's thick enough that you can actually put your logo on the spine of the phone. Clearly, this is not this is not an aspirational design choice.
But I think that there are markets, and I think that
exactly.
in today's market, if you're not in that cool section that Samsung and Huawei and Apple kind of own in a lot of ways, and maybe a couple other manufacturers, you have to find the vertical that's going to make the most sense. So. If you're dealing with folks that want to use a phone that's way out into the middle, going into the middle of nowhere for a long period of time, and you don't know how often you'll be able to charge, I think that this thing could make a lot of sense. I think that it makes a lot of sense I could see this being a combat ready, phone, where you put it into cases, and that means that
put it in a sock.
You have guys that are. That would make sense for, and so I think that there's a lot of.
Would it be more efficient to have like a smaller phone and then a portable battery, and then maybe even like that portable battery has some kind of attachment so that you can actually stick the phone right on the portable battery?
Yeah, the issue is in a lot of those areas whether it's combat or whether it's you camping or whatever, it's a lot of dirt. There's a lot of other things going on, and having things break up into little pieces is not necessarily a feature that is aspirational. so having it all contained in one unit, I think you could have people that because even now with this phone, I mean, as with Andy, I'd love it to be a third thicker and be able to actually last a day, because right now I feel like I'm constantly charging my phone.
Here's another shot from Vlad Savov on
that's a lot of battery.
That's aggressive.
And I'm defending it. I would never buy it.
You want to balance two things. You have two conflicting demands, almost like security and convenience. You have longevity. You want the phone to have a battery that lasts as long as possible, but batteries are not RF transparent. Batteries are not good for thermals because they get very hot, and also they're heavy. They're very heavy components. And you also want someone who's going to the doctor's appointment, wants to read their book, play their video game, watch their video, whatever, waiting at the airport for hours. And it's everyone says, you're not strong enough to hold up a phone, but you're holding it up for hours. It starts to get heavier, and so you want to sort of find the sweet spot where an average person can hold it up for a useful amount of time, because no matter how much charge you have in it, if you get tired of holding it, and you want to have it last, because it doesn't matter if you can hold it if it runs out of battery and you can no longer use it. And finding that sweet spot, I think we have gone too far in one direction, but finding that sweet spot is where I think a lot of these phones have to hit.
This thing is
let's also not ignore that if you made in addition to battery life, if you made a phone thicker, and one of the payoffs was we don't have to glue everything together. We don't have to make all these compromises about repairability. We're not going to make it out of Lego bricks, but nonetheless, it will be relatively easy to replace a cracked screen. It will be trivial to replace a battery. And even if we decide that we want to swap out a motherboard to just the next generation version of this same platform, it might be possible. All these things could be done if you decide that you don't have to make this thing as thin as possible.
It does kind of look like
them like cards.
A modern bezel-less Android phone glued onto a giant battery.
Yeah,
onto 18 other modern bezel.
And I think again, like there are
it's like extruded.
You know, when you think past the things that I just said there, but if you're working in events where you're up, you're really pushing things hard all the time, or you're working in construction, you're working in all kinds of areas where you're not going to necessarily have time to set it down, and being able to not just have long ready time, but have it be actively pushed as far as it can go all day without having to worry about it. I think it makes sense for
again as part.
Sorry, Andy.
No, I was just quickly saying, as part of a large ecosystem of phones, where again, if this is if this is ridiculously thick and ridiculously heavy for you, you're right. Wow, you absolutely should not buy this. You should buy any of 100 other phones you can buy in this space. This is why, like, if sometimes it seems as though I and other people are saying, oh, Apple, they're just not into innovating anymore. They're going to wait for other people to innovate and then copy them. It's because Apple is not in a position where they can stop making a somewhat conservative device, because that's the only $800 phone that runs iOS. And if they do something crazy with it that is going to alienate 20% of their users, they've got no place to go but elsewhere.